Fleet God.
Yeah.
Go get it. Just in some grass.
Get your boat.
Just some grass.
Big old woofs. A big old woofs. Big old woofs. Good morning to all you early birds. Unfortunately, today the early birds do not get the worm. No worm for you. How am I doing on this one? Yeah, I'm alright. I woke up 20 minutes ago or so after dreaming all night about working at a Starbucks that never existed. It's been a long time since I had a Starbucks work dream, man. And this one was just like all of them. It was very much like actually working at a Starbucks. Did you watch the Batman? No. I don't know why they're not doing like the simul release for the Batman, dude. They should be doing that shit. Like, we're about to let these movie companies take back the power and put us back in the movie theaters and charge us like fucking $90 to see their movie the first time. Come on. Come on. We almost had it. Speed Racer, the movie, that is simultaneously one of the most amazing films I've ever seen and one of the most boring. Speed Racer was like a fever dream, dude. The cartoon wasn't much better, but the goddamn movie was crazy. Like, I can't even believe it got made. It's shocking to me that somebody paid for that movie to be made. And not in a good way. It's one of the oddest movies I've ever seen. And it's incredibly, incredibly boring. I'm just about to watch my last stream. Honestly. No, you don't have to. Everything that was covered in the last stream will be recovered at the beginning of this stream. Have you seen Peacemaker? That's the new series, right? With John Cena playing a character, like a superhero guy. I have not seen the series. I've seen the first half or so of the movie that the character came from. And I will tell you this. He was the best part about it. Shockingly so. John Cena's character was the funniest character and the most relatable character on the cast. So, I guess if you're still like hungry for superhero action, maybe it's good. But I'm not. I just yesterday saw a post that was like Denis Villeneuve talking about how the next Dune movie is gonna have like more action and less talking, and I'm just like, dude, it's not an action book. It's not an action story. It's not supposed to be an action story. It's got action in it sometimes, but it's not supposed to be splody splode, lasery laser, shooty shoot. Like that's not what it is. It's a philosophical book. It's about the talking. It's about the reminiscing. It's about the flashbacks. It's about the visions, and it's about the communication. So it's basically going to be a reboot. I mean, kind of. It seems like it's going that way. You know, like the arc of the Lynch Dune was very much like, you know, had some rising action, and then it got to the peak, and then the ascending action was a bunch of like explosions and shit as the worms bring down the shield wall and the Harkonnens are, you know, brought to task or whatever. I expect all that to be in the movie, and it's like, yes, there's gonna be action in this movie. There was action in the first one. Like, and some of the scenes that I liked the least were the action ones. Like, I hated that flashback scene where Paul's in that armor. And it just looks so bad. It just looks so Avengers, you know? Him doing all kinds of ninja flips, and then the mask comes back. Ugh.
I like the action that wasn't like traditional action, like the whole rescuing the crawler from the worm.
Yeah, that was cool. And it's not, yeah, that's not like traditional explodey action, and it was a really cool scene, and it managed to be like a philosophical scene despite being all action-packed and shit. I liked the, you know, like escape scene or whatever, whatever when Paul and Jessica escape in the thing. What grade would you give the new Dune film? I don't really do that. I have a hard time rating and grading films seriously.
Yeah, it's more like, would you watch it again willingly?
I mean, I haven't had any desire to watch that movie again. And that's kind of sad. As much as hyped up as it was, I was kind of hoping for something that I'd want to give a rewatch and think about and talk about and stuff, but Dune really didn't really provide that for me. Decent 6 to a light 7. All right, Fantano. Rate with salt grains. Okay. Haven't even seen the movie. I don't blame you. I wouldn't get crazy about insisting that you see the movie. It's really not. My brother asked you to cuss me out the other day. Thanks for standing up for me. Tried the same with TJ, who put his foot down too. Damn. See? I remember that. I remember somebody gave me monies to cuss you out, and I cussed him out.
I'd recommend people watch Lynch's Dune just for like that very beginning scene, because the first scene is just like perfection.
What are you talking about? The intro?
Yeah, with the guild navigators.
Oh yeah. Yeah, how it opens with the Padishah Emperor and the guild navigator meeting them, and yeah, it was great. It was just like, definitely like had a vision for Dune, that even if the movie was pretty far off from the book arc wise, it was very much like that's what I was hoping for from this Dune, was that somebody with a real visual vision would not just recreate some of the scenes, but take liberties with them and push the fantasy element of it a little bit. And I got a lot of really beautiful sets and a lot of beautiful shots and stuff in Dune, and I liked a lot of that, but It didn't feel anywhere near as cohesive as the Lynch Dune did. Didn't feel like a real living universe like the Lynch Dune did. I don't know. I liked the commitment in Lynch's Dune to the soundtrack. Like, that to me was way cooler than the more, I don't know, forgettable soundtrack that we got with. It's like they tried to do something like that. They took a Pink Floyd song and kind of layered that over it, but it didn't work as well. Dude, Toto did the whole soundtrack for the Lynch Dune, a rock band that I don't even like, but it provided a landscape that was entirely unique to that movie and a super memorable soundtrack. Dun, 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 dun. This was more a direct visualization of the book. I guess too direct, in my opinion. If anything, I think it went over the top in trying to be too much like the book. I think if you're going to make a movie of Dune, you have to take liberties. You have to.
Because if you just try to stick to the book like glue, then you're going to still be disappointed, because there's no way it'd be like a 12-hour movie.
That's the thing, is like, you cannot pace Dune the way it's paced in the books. And that alone requires you to do some massive changing to the storyline and all of that. Like, you just can't pace it. You can't have that ultimate slow burn like you do in the books. And that's really what the Dune books are, with the exception of maybe Dune Messiah, which is a faster book. It's like a faster read. The Dune books are all meditative books. Books where you get these long chapters of descriptions of big events, and then you get these long chapters of intimate conversations between two characters. The pace is what it needs to be. And, you know, you're never going to get a book that covers that. You're never going to get a book that weaves that tapestry. And so you have to make choices. And I feel like a lot of the stuff that Denis ended up leaving in the movie was visual rather than character development wise. I mean, he dropped so much stuff. He dropped the whole, like, Dr. Yui thing. And we're talking about a movie that's the entirety of Dune, and it's the same length as Villeneuve's Dune. And Dr. Yui, who is, you know, the, like, betrayer or whatever of the House Atreides, the imperially conditioned doctor that had his imperial conditioning undone by the Harkonnens to be a spy, so that he could poison the Duke and, you know, keep him there for the Baron to kill or whatever. That whole storyline, if you watch Lynch's Dune, makes way more sense. It's way more fleshed out, and they didn't even go with what was in the movie. Was in the book.
Yeah, it's like the Guild Navigator thing. I guess a lot of people pointed out, like, oh, well, that wasn't in the book until way later. It's like, but it set the scene so well.
Right.
It really, like, drills in, like, this is the Emperor behind all of this chaos.
Right. He's the one that's, you know, his machinations to kind of, like, control his vassals and to keep the spice flowing on Arrakis and stuff are really what's behind the beginning of all this. He's the, like, puppet master standing up there, at least at the beginning. And these other two noble houses are being played against one another. You know, and he's colluding with one of them even to play against another to reduce or destroy one house that he feels like might have a claim to some of his power. It explains a little bit about the economics behind it too, because in the book, it doesn't mention it in Lynch's Dune, but it talks a lot. Like, Lynch's Dune talks a lot about the economics of it. Like, a lot of this is expressed through stock in a company in the book, Chom stock. There's this company called Chom that is like, it's all about, like, it's the navigator, like the movement of spice and materials and stuff. So they own the ships, they own the navigators, blah 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 blah. And there's a lot of talk in the book about you know, the shares that the Emperor has in the Chom Company and blah, 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 blah. And that's not really, like, it's not mentioned in Lynch's Dune, but you get a better idea of the economic kind of, like, reasoning behind this. In the first Dune, or in the new Dune, sorry, Villeneuve's Dune, it almost feels like, it's being painted as, like, you know, just like a villainous plot with no real world implications, you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, let's collude to backstab the Atreides. Well, yeah, kinda, but why? You know, you would think that the why doesn't matter, but in this case it really does, because it feels more like a fantasy book where you just have an evil empire, you know what I mean? And that's not really what's going on here.
It's politics.
It's politics and capitalism is going on, you know.
And just the way they did the mentats, where it was super unclear what their purpose even was.
They didn't do a good job. They had all extra time.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that bothered me about Villeneuve's Dune more than anything else, is that you would expect, if you take, I'm sorry, but you cannot talk about Dune and not compare these two movies. You cannot not compare Villeneuve's Dune to Lynch's Dune. You have to. And because if it doesn't reach that benchmark, then something's incredibly wrong. So you take that movie, which manages to pack an incredible amount of depth and give a really genuinely good summary of what happens in Dune, that gives you a lot of the information that's critical in Dune, even if it's out of order in some cases. And it's the difference between that and having extra time to really dig down into that. So what if that Dune was cut in half and was a two-parter? And that first 2 hours, instead of covering all the way up through Paul's ascension to the Kwisatz Haderach and the riding of the worms and the assault on Arrakeen and all of that, instead of going all the way up through that, what if it only went up through the Water of Life scene, like this one did? How much more time would Lynch have had to develop? And see, this is the sad thing. He didn't need it. I think that Lynch's Dune, if you watch that movie and you've never seen Dune, and you really like that movie and you're into all the little things, you can talk about Dune after watching that movie. Like, pretty authoritatively when it comes to the main plot points. You might miss out on some of the side characters, and you might miss out on some of the interrelationships and stuff, but overall, you're going to be able to have a whole ass conversation about Dune after watching Lynch's Dune. You're going to know some principal characters, you're going to know how the universe works, you're going to know what a navigator is and what a mentat is, you're going to know kind of like what the Baron and the Emperor are doing to the Atreides. It's going to make sense to you from the jump why the Emperor would pay to have the Atreides sent to Dune and only to have them killed. And it's one movie. One movie the same length as the first part of this. And I felt like I know more about the characters. I knew the characters are more clearly defined archetypically. They're more they're better cast. I think they're more like memorable. I think one of the downsides to Lynch's Dune is that Kyle MacLachlan's like all pushing 30.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to be playing like a 16-year-old. That doesn't play very well, but it doesn't come up very much either.
Yeah.
He just kind of plays like an older, I'm in my 20s.
He just really wanted Kyle MacLachlan.
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Kyle MacLachlan, like, there's a reason why he's in Twin Peaks.
Mm-hmm.
He's got this, like, mysticism to him.
Mm-hmm.
He does. He just does. He's tuned into that thing in the same way that David Lynch is.
And that kind of, like, emotional bluntedness that you need to.
Yep.
Because, Paul's not a very emotional character.
No. Well, he's a character that's been specifically trained to repress his emotion.
Mm-hmm.
that was something that I feel wasn't done as well in the Villeneuve Dune, the new Dune, was making impactful the emotional outbursts that Paul has.
Mm-hmm.
Because he has them in the book too, but they're all very like linchpin moments. And it's a restrained emotional outburst. He's never out of control. Whereas Paul in the new Dune seems almost like captive to his psychic powers or whatever. It brings him to his knees and he can't handle it, and it causes these emotional connections and emotional outbursts in him and stuff. I don't know. He just felt like way more compromised than Paul does in the original movie.
Yeah. And then with Jessica, they made her really emotional in Villeneuve's Dune.
Yeah. They which is, I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. She's emotional in Lynch's Dune too, I suppose, but
I think a lot of people would have the impression that she's not like a put together, really strong woman from Villeneuve's Dune.
yeah,
Because of how many emotional outbursts she has.
they definitely spent a lot more time with her, which you would expect because they've got double the amount of movie.
Yeah.
But that was one of the downsides to that film, was that I don't feel like it used its time. Because think about it, like Thufir Hawat is the Mentat for the Atreides family. Huge character in the books, huge character in Lynch's Dune. Super memorable character. You know who Thufir is. He's in several scenes. His whole arc is very important in that movie. It's very truncated from the book, but it's the same in Denis Dune. I remember the black dude that played Thufir Hawat. I don't remember anything of him saying anything or doing anything that was cool. There was that one thing when he's doing the Mentat thing and his eyes go white. When he's doing the calculations for the Duke. That was one cool moment that Thufir Hawat had. Other than that, he's basically not even in Denis Villeneuve's Dune. And that's just like shitty.
Yeah. And just not making it clear to the audience at all why Mentats exist.
Yeah. And they don't like outright explain it in David Lynch's Dune. Like, you don't hear about the Butlerian Jihad in Lynch's Dune. But it's explained to you through the story what Thufir Hawat does. You see him doing the cogitations or whatever it is when he's sitting at that little machine and he's doing the 7, 8, sum, 1, 2, blah blah. You know, doing all these like you're it's like, oh yeah, these guys are like computers. They think like they're able to do complex equations in their head and shit. You don't really know why. You just know that that's what they're serving as.
So, like, when Thufir in the Denis Dune is like, you don't understand why he's so mad at himself for missing the spy, because they're supposed to be almost like
they're machines,
seers.
right?
Yeah,
They're
like predicting all the outcomes.
Right. They're not psychic. They're supposed to be like seers because they're so mathematically capable of exploring every avenue of possible infiltration or whatever in a plan that they're supposed to catch everything. That's their whole plan. And yeah, you're absolutely right. In the movie, Thufir has like a big emotional breakdown about how, you know, he didn't catch this, but you don't really know why he's so emotionally invested. You just, you know, in the other one, it's made explicit with less time. So this idea that you necessarily need all this time to explain these complex characters and complex ideas has been blown out of the water already. And so if you don't use it properly, just because you don't need it doesn't mean you can't use it. And his choice to split this movie up into two really needed to show fruit, and it just hasn't. In my opinion, it just hasn't. I felt way less connected to pretty much all of the principal characters in this movie. I thought that Duke Leto He was a good actor, and I thought it was a good portrayal, but he felt too young to me. I don't know, man. I really feel like the Villeneuve movie lacked character development.
And the Baron being so scarce.
So stupid. It was so lame that I watched that whole movie just like really looking forward to seeing the Baron and stuff, and I'd seen every scene that was actually in the movie except for one. They literally showed pretty much 100% of every scene that the Baron was in the material, like in the trailers, except one. There was one cool moment with the Baron that was memorable and neat that I had not seen in the trailers, and the rest of it's all there. You could just watch the Dune trailer if you want to see Baron Harkonnen. It's pretty much everything is there. Super disappointed in the lack of, especially knowing what I do about how important that character is going forward. You know, even though the Baron dies at the end of Dune, he's still an insanely important character going forward.
And you don't get a true sense of how evil he is either. Like, Lynch went over the top, but he kind of is an over the top evil character.
A lot of people criticize how Lynch went over the top with the Baron because he added in a lot of stuff. He added in these sores and like the weird, like, but I think it's brilliant because he knew he didn't have time to establish how dark and degraded this character is in comparison, and so he uses a visual cue that everybody can identify with. Outwardly diseased and actually enjoys being diseased, you know what I mean? That one scene in the movie, which is like what, 3-4 minute scene where he's getting his sores worked on, and the heart plug slave comes over and he bathes in the blood and he flies up. How dramatic is that for like a villain reveal? You know what I mean? And none of that is in the book.
Like, you see it as like he's a really fat dude with like some machinations, but you don't get the sense of the evil.
Yeah, he looks evil, he sounds evil, but you don't get the sense that there's a real deep depravity behind him. It doesn't establish him as a fucking villain. It establishes him as just a spooky fat guy. But I thought that was a brilliant part of Lynch's Dune. How do you take this character that's so important to the storyline and establish him as not just a villain, but as a polar opposite point from Paul, which is what he is in ambition and in ability and strategy and all of that stuff. He's Paul's match, but he's the dark mirror of Paul in more ways than one. How do you establish that with a character that in the books he's described as like foppish? Like the Baron is like almost effeminate in the books in how he dresses. Like he has lace ruffles and beautiful pink velvet and blah 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 blah. He's like kind of a fop in the books. He's like a genuine like aristocrat. And so I think that Lynch's Dune darkened him up and made him this grimy kind of disgust in order to bring out that kind of villain portrayal. And I think that Lynch's Dune tries to do the same thing. They should have gone the other fucking direction with it. You have more time with the Baron. You could have made him way more like the books.
Yeah, do that really like aristocrat kind of portrayal, but explain through showing and telling just how evil is underneath that exterior.
Right. And I feel like that they kind of just ripped off the aesthetic. There's a scene where the scene that I'm talking about, the big villain reveal scene in David Lynch's Dune, where he, pulls the heart plug out of a slave, bathes in their blood, and then blood starts raining from the ceiling, and he floats up into it as he's laughing, and he's just getting drenched in this blood, and great villain reveal. And I feel like they just kind of did the same thing, and they try to make a similar thing in Villeneuve's Dune, where they have him rising up out of the tar or whatever. And it was like a real moody looking cool scene and stuff, but it was
And they gave it up.
Right.
In the trailer.
Yeah, it was. They showed it to you, so it wasn't even. Like I said, there was one cool scene with the Baron where he's interrogating the Duke. That was the only real scene that we didn't see much of in the trailers, and it ends with him like a spider, almost like scurrying up into the ceiling to get away from the poison gas attack that kills Pyre de Vries. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just like such less memorable characters at every turn. At every turn, I think that Jurgen Prochnow's Duke Leto was way better than the guy that was in this new one. I think that Lady Jessica is portrayed in a more book appropriate fashion in Lynch's Dune. I don't mind that Denis wanted to, provide a lot more focus on Jessica, but the focus that was provided, I don't think it provided me any more information about her character than I got from the other one, unfortunately.
It's just like traditional, like, mother concerned about her son stuff.
Yeah. Both of the Mentats, neither of those character portrayals stick out anywhere near as well as they did in Lynch's Dune. And those are, both huge characters. And, Lynch's Dune had time to introduce Fade as well. And have an entire character in it that doesn't even appear in the, So it just doesn't make sense to me. It's just, for me, it's like, I hate to say it, it's just bad script writing. So that's all it is.
Yeah, I noticed that he didn't get nominated for directing. They got nominated for Best Picture and visuals and all that stuff,
right.
But not directing.
He didn't get Best Director nod for it. I don't think he deserves it. I don't think the movie was all that. I think it was like poorly paced for what it was. I think it had a lot of beautiful visual imagery. I mean, it's a Villeneuve film, so it's every frame a painting type of looking stuff. Some really great looking CG in it. It wasn't all bad, but it just felt disjointed and disconnected in the shadow of another movie. And that's when you're gonna reboot a franchise or reboot, that's you got to take that into account, man. I'm a huge fan of the books. I'm a huge fan of the David Lynch adaptation of it. And I'm going to look at your movie through that lens, especially if you make me do it.
Yeah, there was a lot of parallel scenes.
A lot of scenes that were done very similarly.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? You've got the chance to put your own stamp on this, and you're basically choosing to kind of tiptoe in and out of the footprints of David Lynch. Why?
When you guys did that whole live stream on it, you found that clip thing where it was showing all the parallel scenes.
Yep.
Framed the same way.
Very odd decision making. It's like he simultaneously wanted to show reverence to Lynch's Dune, which I totally understand. In fact, I remember reading when we were going over this on the show one of the days. I remember we were reading a little thing about him talking about what a huge fan he was of David Lynch's Dune and how he wanted to do, so clearly he went into this with I want to please people that are fans of the books by giving them a little more, and I want to please people who are just fans of the Lynch movie by remaining true to that kind of vision, but putting my own spin on it. And I think that was a terrible, terrible mistake, honestly, because it just invites more comparison. For this movie to be really, really good, it needed to blaze its own trail.
Yeah, I'll say that the worms were probably the best visual aspect of that.
Yeah.
Giving it emotion without eyes and all that.
Yes, the worms were really well conceived in the new movie. That's to be expected. If you can't do with all of the new CG tools that are at your disposal, I mean, think about it. Fucking Lynch had to build little miniature worm models and do stop motion photography with them and all kinds of camera trickery, and it looks great. It really does. I love the way that David Lynch did his worms, but I mean, dude, if he'd fallen down on that and not made, I don't think we get to see enough of them, but hopefully that'll change. The little bit we do get to see of the worms, very nice. These recent reboots of these established franchises are looking good. Baron's Mentat in the film was nothing like the twisted Mentat described in the book. The Baron chastises the Mentat for his love of cruelty. You're talking about Piter de Vries, yeah. Well, that's like a... I don't know, man.
You got something to say, dude.
You lick your chops so much. But you always licking. You lick everything. You're a licker.
Oh, you're shivering.
You cold?
Have you ever seen Hagazusa? Nope. And this blockbuster, Echo the Dolphins. Oh yeah, Echo the Dolphin, dude. That was a crazy game, Echo the Dolphin. I haven't thought about that game in a long time, dude. That game, I remember when it came out, everybody was like, dude, it's photorealistic. Looks just like a dolphin. Doesn't really.
You're the one that wanted to go in.
Like, I wanted you to come in too, though. That was part of the deal. Oh, God. Come out here, then. Just quit being a little wimp. Bring me your ball. Bring it to me. Wow, you got rope-a-doped by your own ball. He's like, whoa, it disappeared through the fence. Get it. Get it. It's not a magic ball. It's not gonna... What? Get your ball. It's not a mystical ball. It's not gonna hurt you. It's because you lost sight of it doesn't make it... It's not... It doesn't have a voodoo curse on it, okay? Empty.
You guys don't understand just the pure depth of his not smartness.
Yep. I just don't think that Hollywood can do these big blockbuster fucking events anymore. It's like movies that are not even pushed that end up being delightful and surprising to me. Movies that have like zero hype behind them, you know what I mean? They come out and they're great.
Yeah, we watched that Swallow, and it wasn't awesome, but it was really memorable, and it was really engaging.
Yep.
Took a concept that shouldn't make a good movie, but they did.
Yeah. Interesting flick.
Whole movie based on pica.
I don't know if hype always ruins the experience, but I just think that these companies have become incapable of living up to the hype that they present. So, look like you're frozen, baby.
No, I'm fine. Don't want to get another Coke because then I'll just get hot.
Yeah.
That Eyes of Tammy Faye. We didn't see anything about that. Love that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, just, I don't know. I'm kind of giving up on the big blockbuster franchises and stuff. I think they're all going to just suck. Not live up to what I want from them. Anyways, I guess that's enough movie talk. Guess we've discussed movies enough.
What next, chat?
Yep.
Ball's in your court.
Yep, I throw the ball to your court, chat, because I have no more to say about Dune. I did 30 straight minutes of soliloquy on Dune. There you go. Now it's on you. You think about Women's Day? I don't know what is Women's Day.
Like International Women's Day. It's International Women's Month or whatever.
Oh. Oh. What was your first job? The first job I worked was like highly illegal and under the table and all of that. But I guess it's okay to talk about it. I worked when I was way underage. It was like 14 when I started at a recycling place. And it was just through connections my dad had. So my dad was a boss at a glass plant. He was the boss of the hot end, so he had to procure the cullet, as they call it, to melt down and make into bottles. And a certain amount of that has to be recycled material per, U.S. law or whatever. And so there are these recycling companies that are set up around that plant in areas, not that far from it, that are almost exclusively to serve it. And I worked for a company I don't even think exists anymore called Container Recycling Alliance, CRA. And I got an under-the-table job there because my dad knew the guy there. And it was, this was, I guess, right at the edge of the time where you could get away with shit like this. Because you really don't hear about stuff like this happening anymore. But
Dude, I had one of those child labor jobs.
Did you?
Yeah, my dad, I stayed with him one summer, and he wanted to think of something for me to do while he was working there, because he didn't have anywhere to put me.
Yeah.
So, I was, putting stuff together, and, putting together folders and stuff, and I was, 10.
Yep. Just doesn't really happen all that much, but...
Yeah, if you have a sufficiently connected and high placed in the company parent, you can end up in those child labor jobs if you want. And it was still fun. It was better than just sitting in there watching movies and shit.
Mine wasn't fun. I would have rather been doing anything else. But at the end of the day, I wanted the job because I wanted to save up money to have a car. So I was able to work that summer and save up every bit of the money that I made, and then that bought me my first car. And so that was the whole idea behind it. So that was the first job I ever had, I guess. I ended up working for that same company again over a summer when I was in my later teens. So, yeah. Funny thing about those jobs, my parents told me, my parents had these, ideas about how they were going to guide my life, you know what I mean? And they were just wrong about me multiple times. After talking to them as an adult, I found out that they let me work those jobs at that CRA place because they hoped that I would see the value of going to college or something. And they hoped I would be horrible at it and that I would just be like, oh my God, I can't do this for a living. I see the light, you know what I mean? And I just kind of did them. I just kind of was like, okay, doodly-doo, learned how to drive forklift over there and, made the job work. And I was like, yeah, I could do this. And they were just like, oh, no.
Yeah, the same way they kicked you out of the house. He's just gonna go to college.
That was another thing that they... Yeah, they were like, yeah, if we kick him out, send him to another state, he's going to fucking realize that, he's got to get his shit together. That was their whole plan, was let's send him to Arizona so that he'll fail over there. I don't fail, motherfuckers. You got the wrong guy. I make it work. And that's exactly what I did. Instead of going down there and curling up into the fetal position and then calling them crying a week later and begging them to come home or whatever, like the plan was, I just fucking got a job and established myself in Arizona. Oops. Looking back on it, to be honest with you, I don't think my parents... It's funny because I don't think they had a whole lot of like... Even though they were trying to push me in the right direction, and I think that that was an expression of what they thought that I could do, I don't think they had a lot of respect for me. Like at all. Like my ability to get things done or live on my own or adapt or be autonomous or whatever. Like I think they had like zero faith that I could do it. It didn't even really come off to me when I was a kid. I had to think about those things as an adult and go like, man, yeah. As I like came into my own, you know, I mean, coming like out of your boyhood and into your manhood or whatever, my parents really just didn't think I could fucking do shit. Like they looked at me and thought because I was into video games and smoking pot and stuff that I was a person that like was incapable.
That you had to have college to do anything.
Because if I didn't have that extra, you know, I wasn't going to be able to make it in the world. And they had nothing but proof that I could. That's the fucked up thing. It's like they put me in these jobs that they were expecting to shock me into reality or whatever, and I just kind of settled into them and did them well.
I think the whole pushing kids to go to college like immediately after high school is something that should start dying a little bit, because so many people don't know what the fuck they want to do.
Oh, absolutely. Really. It needs to be done completely differently. I totally agree. I'm not necessarily against people pushing for their kids to go to college or whatever. I understand, like,
but if they don't know what they want to do and they haven't like worked to like help save up for that in some shape or form, then
there just needs to be some different facilities for kids. There needs to be like a version of college that is like a pre-college kind of thing where you it's a slower introductory kind of here's how college works kind of college, where you still get credits but you're not quite there yet. I think some people, especially with things the way that they are now, I think if we retooled the whole educational system and made high school more like a trade school, then people that are so inclined to go further in their education would be way more prepared to do it. But and that ain't gonna happen.
More jobs should have like the college benefits, I think, too. Like there are some jobs that, you know, like we're like, oh, we'll help you pay for college and shit. That should be more of a standard. Like instead of your parents paying for your college, your job paying for your college.
Yeah. Yeah, a 2-year college. Yeah, I mean, I think that type of transitional college stuff should be more available, and you know, and then there's the whole idea of just not pushing people. Some people, like I did not take to the college way of things. I just wasn't built to thrive in that type of environment or whatever. Wasn't conducive to me being happier or learning. So that's that. I didn't go. But I gotta be honest with you, like, if I look back at my life, I feel like I've been underestimated most of my life. I feel like there's something about me, my personality, the way I project, that gives people a way less charitable view of what I'm capable of than is real. I'm not saying I'm some kind of Superman or something, but I know what the fuck I'm doing. I know how to handle things. I know how to get through life. I've managed myself.
Maybe just because you come off with an aura of like being inviting, that you're not all hard.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think unions should get grants to open more trade schools. Many big ones already operate them. But what about, yeah, why not? I mean, I'm all for specialized education, and I'm all for, education that leads to people being able to pursue something that they enjoy.
Right now, it's a big old failure. Like, there's so many people that have bachelors that are still flipping burgers.
Yeah.
When they would have done better to just go straight into flipping burgers and not going to college.
Probably. It's the long beard and long hair. No. Because I haven't had this my whole life. I was clean cut during a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about.
Maybe just because you're a warm person, people think you're soft, but you're not.
I don't know if it's I don't know what it is. I feel like that happens pretty much at every layer of my life at some point. And I feel like that a lot of the people, especially like people that really know me, my family, has a really hard time looking at my history of getting through things and realizing that I'm okay to do it and that I'm going to be okay in perpetuity.
Yeah. Like, you've gone through a lot of moments where it's like a lot of people would just fucking fall over and need to go back in with mom and get help. I
mean, there's no like shame in that.
Yeah.
But I've never had to do it. I've never done it. I've never moved in with my parents, with the exception of when I moved back from Arizona to here. I lived with my dad for a couple of months because I was taking over the fucking condo that he was living in. And I ended up buying that condo just months after he ended up leaving. So it wasn't like moving back in with your parents as much as it was just like
transitionary, like... Yeah, I'm
That's
sure people do
closest I
that,
came.
like when, like if they're having a house built or something,
Sure.
they'll live with their mom until the house is built or whatever, or until like a sale closes or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
That's like in pursuit of immediately leaving again.
Right. Well, that was the whole point. It's like you come here, we're moving out, you move your stuff in, and you take over the payments on this condo or whatever. And that was what I did. And so that's the closest I ever came to moving back in with my parents. Never once had to ask my parents for money. Never once. Never once had to do a phone call to my parents. Hey, can I borrow $200 till Wednesday or whatever till I get paid? Never. Paid every lick of my own bills since I was fucking 18 years old. Yeah, I think it's easy to say, like, looking at me now and going like, oh yeah, that's what it is. It's the way you keep yourself. Dude, you guys have seen pictures of me. I was a clean-cut little dude. Neatly trimmed little goatee. Business haircut. Business casual 90s haircut. What was 18-year-old Paul like? I don't know. I'd have to talk to him. Yeah, dude, white Yo Paul. You guys know.
The polo.
Yeah.
What was the worst thing about like dressing up like that for you?
Just how I looked.
Yeah.
I hated how I looked every fucking day of my life. I thought I just looked silly and stupid and dopey dressed up like that, and I did not feel like that type of person. Mm-hmm. So being forced to present myself that way just sucked. Yeah. Like even, and I had nice clothes too.
So it wasn't like you were uncomfortable?
No, it wasn't like I was wearing like shitty clothes or clothes that didn't fit me or whatever. I had nice clothes. Nice little polos, and when they got raggedy from being washed too many times, I threw them out and I got new ones, and I got nice slacks and nice shoes and a nice belt, and What are some of the specific skills you've lost with time or lifestyle? I think like the most critical thing that I've lost, just due to it not being my job anymore, and due to the fact that technology has moved on, is just my ability to work on computers and shit. Has, like, some of that stuff is still, I could probably still build a computer now, but it's changed, and a lot of the troubleshooting shit, it's just not even worth anything anymore. Like I was specifically trained in supporting Mac computers. I don't even work with Macintosh computers now. So it's like, okay.
I mean, you still have that drive, though. Like, last night, trying to figure out that path. You were not going to put it down until you figured it out.
Yeah. I don't think your mother did not respect you. No. It definitely was a lack of, like, there was a lack of respect. Trust me. You gotta understand, man. It's just straight out. They've just straight out told me, like, we expect you to go down to Arizona, and the whole plan was you were just gonna fucking fold. You were gonna sleep on the Rodney's couch for, X amount of days, and then you were gonna call us, one or both of us, all tearful, begging to come back, and we were gonna hardline you for a couple of days and then come get you. Like, they had it all figured out in their head how I was gonna fail and how I was gonna come simpering back, and you're telling me that's not, like, disrespect? That's straight out disrespect. That's saying, like, you're incapable of working a job, you're incapable of paying your bills, and we know it, and we're gonna show you how incapable you are. And it's just like, man, I was the opposite of that. I was utterly capable. No, I mean, you can give her, I understand the desire to give my parents the benefit of the doubt on that, but I mean, you just gotta fucking examine it for what it was, Why Arizona? That's just, I had a friend that was there. I had a friend that moved there right after high school, went to a trade school, got a 2-year degree, and then got a job at Motorola and was making a bunch of money. And he was like, oh, you got to come down here. There's jobs everywhere, tech jobs. And it really was. There was a big tech. This was before the .com crash. So you have to understand, like, Arizona was this huge, they had these huge call centers in Arizona, these huge manufacturing places in Arizona for tech. There's a big Motorola plant there. There was a Nokia assembly plant there. There was a bunch of, like, tech stuff. I worked at my first big job down there was for MCI WorldCom, which is a company that doesn't even exist anymore, folded after the .com crash. So there was this big boom there. It was easy to get a job in tech. You didn't even really need, like, he would tell my parents, like, the only mistake I made was paying for that school because I didn't need it. I've got friends that work at the thing. They just walked in and applied and had a generalized idea of how to work with tech, and they were able to get the same job I have. And so he was selling my parents all, not selling it to him, but he would call, for me, and my parents would talk to him, oh, how are you doing? And he would tell them. And he was always, like, trying to get me to go down there. And so he'd say, oh, PJ should come down here, blah, blah, blah. And so that was my parents' idea. They like, kind of colluded with one of my friends to say, like, okay, yeah, he can live with me. And that was the expectation, that I was going to couch surf for, like, a week and call them desperate because I had no money.
But they think you, like, would have done best in a cubicle or something? Is that their dream, that you were to go to college and then be a cubicle monkey? I
don't know what their dream was, to be honest with you. But it was that I didn't do what they did. And they didn't see that there were other paths to that, Like, I didn't do what they did. I did a different kind of work.
Because, yeah, you were a cubicle monkey for a hot minute without no college.
Kind of, yeah. Ugh.
I also underestimated nepotism.
True.
You got the most nepotism job.
Hey, you gotta fucking use your connections, man. If you don't, you're never gonna get anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, I got a job at the school district 100% because my brother-in-law worked there and he vouched for me. But everybody's got a brother-in-law, Everybody's got a cousin. Everybody's got an uncle. Everybody's, use your fucking connections.
Yeah, use Facebook for something interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like. Hey, I'm looking for a job. What do you do? Slide me in there.
Do you always have a natural inclination for jobs within the tech sector? I was always a little more computer savvy, as people used to call it, than everybody else because I grew up with my dad, who was like a total nerd for computers. My dad was building computers and working on computers before they were like a common consumer product. My dad was writing computer programs before people were doing that. So he was a big nerd, and some of that bled into me. I wasn't, as into it as he was, but I was way more positioned when the digital age started to succeed in that than a lot of people were. Because a lot of people had just like went from 0 to 100, and for me, I don't even remember a time in my life where there wasn't a computer around. So, some of my earliest memories are sitting down and playing computer games. And that was, 1985, where computer games were like arcade games, Frogger and Pac-Man. That was a game, and you had to put a quarter in it and be standing at a pizza parlor or something to play it. The idea of having a little machine that did video games at your house was just fanciful and silly. And it was like a little, it was not like a hobby for most people. It was a little pastime, like getting one of those squashed pennies or whatever, where you put the penny. You ever done that? Those like
Oh yeah.
those tourist
that, like,
penny
in
squashers.
Zoom.
Yeah. You put 50 cents in, and then you put one of your own pennies, and it goes through a roller and squishes your penny and makes a little thing out of it. Yeah. That's what video games were to people, and just computers in general. And so I was just like not uniquely, but I was more well positioned to take advantage of technology than other people were. So it allowed me to take advantage of that in a couple of different times in my career path or whatever.
I mean, you still do that shit, like when you're working.
Yeah.
Fucking stupid ass OBS with their stupid ass updates.
Yeah. Air hockey is the best coin-based game. Air hockey is pretty lame, dude. It's fun for like 10 seconds, and then you're just kind of like, man, I wish I hadn't paid for a whole game of this.
That's more of like how I picture like a rec room game or something. You have to have like some designated recreation time.
Yeah,
you
I
play
don't know.
air hockey.
I'd rather have a pool table. I know that's the most expensive rec room game, but if I was gonna have some kind of like big table game like that, I'd get a pool table. Hair hockey. I think you could do some cool stuff with a pool table too, because like if you got the right kind of cover for it and the right height seats, you could use it as a non-pool like gaming table and shit too. I don't like air hockey at all, but I do love a lot of those little table type games.
Yeah, it used to be good. Like fucking my grandpa put like a pool cue in my hand when I was like 6.
Yeah. I grew up around pool tables. So my aunt and uncle, they're not really my aunt and uncle, just close friends of my parents, but I knew them as an aunt and uncle. They had a pool table. We were over there all the time. And then when I was in my teens, my stepdad got a pool table, like a secondhand one, and restored it and all that shit. And so we had a pool table in the house. I can shoot around a little bit.
Did you get like a little kid-sized one?
Oh yeah, I had a little trainer cue at my aunt and uncle's house back in the day, but they didn't put me on that. Like they let me use the like steadying thing. They wanted me to get used to using the big pool sticks and stuff, and so.
I had a little tiny golf club too for a little while.
Yeah, I never golfed once in my life. I've never been on a golf course and done golfing ever.
My dad had some corporate job where he had to play golf like once a year. It was just like, here, play golf too.
Did $2 to say air hockey better. You wrong. You wrong. Foosball better.
Foosball can be a dangerous game. People get into it, fucking eat those balls.
Yeah. My dad's only hobby is golf. I mean, whatever, dude. Different strokes for different folks, I guess. I mean, I guess the whole idea of playing golf for a lot of people is probably not necessarily the playing golf part. It's like getting out, walking around, and hanging out with your friends or whatever. Drinking
socializing with a cigar.
Yeah, having a cigar and drinking a beer and just having the excuse to walk around on a sunny day or whatever is probably what I assume it's about for most people that play golf. More so than the game. Pool tables are always in some dimly lit warehouse with a gangster smoking a cigarette. I'm assuming. I don't think that's true. You have not been around a lot of pool tables. That's a very cool idea, but very cool scene that you've said, but I don't think it's true. Oh, dang.
Are you gonna go in and immediately be pathetic again?
Yes.
Mister.
Would you agree that pool is primarily a game of geometry? Yeah. I mean, you don't really do geometrical equations in your head doing pool, but you have to understand, like, angular momentum and all that kind of stuff to play pool, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could master a game of pool if you really did sit down and do all the equations and shit.
I mean, I'm sure that a lot of the best pool players have done stuff like that. But just shooting around, you just kind of have to understand angular velocity and momentum and, the just kind of the different effects of hitting the ball at a different place with your cue. So you hit your, you hit the cue ball at the bottom and you're creating backspin, which means that the cue ball is going to go forward the momentum that you hit it with the stick, and then it's going to stop. So if you're shooting directly out of pocket and you want the ball to go in, the ball that you're shooting at to go in, but the cue ball not to go in, which is called a scratch. You don't want that because it lets the other player pick up the cue ball and put it on the table wherever they want to line up their shot. So you're going to hit the ball on the bottom. You hit the ball on the top, you create even more velocity for that, so you can double bump with it. You hit the ball left or right, and you're going to create a curve. So if you need to go up and around a ball that you want to leave there as an obstacle for your opponent and have the cue ball tap another ball in, you can kind of arc it around. Those are harder trick shots to do. But yeah, it's all about where you hit the ball on the cue. There's ricochets and shit you can do too. Just make, like, bank a shot off the edge, so you go out and around things, so you don't have to do the curvy shot. Oh yeah, dude, if you watch some like professional pool players, they'll clear a whole table. It's the craziest shit to watch. It's like doing a magic trick. I never got that good at it. My uncle was really good at pool. He could do a lot of those like trick shots and shit. It was just fucking amazing to watch. And he wasn't even like a top dude. He just knew some basic stuff. I think this is basic physics, not geometry. I don't know. I mean, there's probably a little bit of both, to be honest with you. You definitely need to know, angles and all of that shit.
Mainly just the whole spatial awareness in general. It's like some people have the ability to visualize how things how chain reactions happen, and some people don't.
Mm-hmm. The wow. Man. I'm just sitting here getting mad about this fucking weed whacker sound. It's the only thing keeping this from being an idyllic morning for me. Weed Eater is a great brand. Oh yeah, bro. Fantastic brand. Dude, I played tetherball. I got in trouble one time because I played tetherball too hard and busted a chick's glasses with it. Because like we had rules, you weren't allowed to you weren't supposed to do like a slingshot start where you grab the ball and like you grab the rope and you, but we would do it when the teachers weren't looking, and I was playing a heated match, man. It was my go. Did a slingshot start, and she caught it right in the face. Broke her glasses. I got called into the principal's office. The whole fucking nine, man. Tetherball was real. All right? You don't understand. That little ball on a string, that's the only thing that kept violence from breaking out on the schoolyard, man. That's where you settled it. Settled it at the tether ball. Foursquare is, dude. Don't go around telling people that, man. Foursquare was for the slow kids, dude. Dude, she took it right in the face. Busted her fucking glasses. It was horrible. It was not a good look for me or anybody else. But had to be done. There was bullshit being talked. And don't tell anybody you were a Foursquare master, man. That's not a good look. We weren't allowed to play dodgeball, dude. Dodgeball was straight out banned. There were times where we played it, but it was always like sanctioned. Like they had teachers watching you and shit. And you played with the big rubber balls. We were not allowed to play dodgeball the way we wanted to play dodgeball. Foursquare, dude. Dodgeball straight out banned on every campus in my childhood, man. That was a myth. These people would have been aiming for the face. We always had some kind of game going, man. Before tetherball became the big thing, it was marbles. Marbles were a huge deal, man. There was an underground marble market. There were like underground marble matches that we would set up where we would have like kids screening it. You know, we would have like a bunch of kids like gather in a certain place that would block so that we could huddle down behind the backstop and play marbles. Because, you know, and there was a lot at stake. If you fucked up and got busted by the teacher, your whole marble bag got taken. So, this is high stakes shit. There was no time to be caught slipping with your marbles. Bleh. That's just gonna keep going. It's gonna bother me all day. So fuck it. I'll see you later. Bye.